Let's
Okay.
rank the 49ers head coaches from best to worst since 1979, starting with the best.
Okay.
Who could it
Bill
be?
Walsh. Who could it be?
Bill
Oh,
Walsh.
yeah, Bill
Yeah.
Walsh. So he is unanimous by acclamation, number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number two has to be George Seifert. Let me just say why. He won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
These guys ain't won no Super Bowls. And a lot of people say, well, the first Super Bowl he won, it was Bill's team. True, he did inherit a phenomenal team from Bill. A lot of guys would have screwed it up. He didn't. And then he won a Super Bowl on his own. George should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe he is. He should be in the Hall of Fame. One hell of a coach.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Super Bowls he won as a coordinator.
Good point.
I mean, the Niners were great. They were known for their offense, but correct me if I'm wrong, their defenses were always as good as their offenses were when Seifert was around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. And I know there was one time when they were preparing for a game and Holmgren was the offensive coordinator. Bill was gone. And he showed the game plan to George, and George was a defensive coach. And George said, I can beat this. Do it again.
Wow.
Said it to Holmgren.
You think a lot about Bill Walsh having his coaching tree and Seifert being in it. But then, again, Seifert was a head coach for a while, 8 years, won 2 Super Bowls. He has his own coaching tree. His defensive coordinator in 1996 and 1997 was Pete Carroll. His offensive coordinator when he won his second Super Bowl was Mike Shanahan. So in a sense, Kyle Shanahan is in the George Seifert tree.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
George Seifert doesn't get enough credit. I think he has 4 rings, 2 as a coordinator. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Iggy, he's a very modest person. Ira
not
Miller
a self-promoter.
Not a self-promoter. Not a drama queen. Ira Miller has been to his house, I think Bodega Bay or something like that. And Ira said, you'd never know he was a football coach. There's no football memorabilia in the house.
That's so cool, so relatable.
Yeah.
And I think I'm correct. People could check me if I'm wrong, but as soon as they fired George Seifert and brought in Mariucci, that defense went to crap immediately, if I remember correctly. Seifert was a serious defensive coach in general.
And the team was never really as good. They didn't win anything after that. And here's the thing. We're going to get to Mariucci later. I think behind that change, Eddie and Carmen policy, and Carmen and I are friends.
Yes.
That was a bad move.
It was.
They never should have moved out Seifert for Mariucci. No. Mariucci had been the coach at Cal. I think his record was 6-5.
That's correct.
He was a good coach. He wasn't at the Seifert level. End of story.
Yeah. Let's stick with Seifert one more for a minute just to give him some props with his stats. Dad, in 8 years with the 49ers, his record was 98-30. 98-30. That's a 766 win-loss record. He never won fewer than 10 games in a season, ever. Never had a 9-game win season, never had an 8-win season. He was 14-2, 14-2, 10-6, 14-2, 10-6, 13-3, 11-5, 12-4. Got fired after going 12-4. How about that?
He got fired after he went 12-4. Kyle goes 12-4, and people say he's a genius.
Yeah, he got fired 2 years after he won his second Super Bowl, and they were like, get out of here. You're not getting it done. They haven't won a Super Bowl since. It's the curse of George Seifert. Okay, George, there's your props. Who's third?
Okay, well, here's the 2 contenders, and they're close. Harbaugh and Kyle Shanahan. Iggy, I'm going with Harbaugh. I'll tell you why. It's a neck and neck, but I'm going with Harbaugh. They both got to the Super Bowl and lost, so they share that. As far as I recall, Harbaugh got it additionally to 2 championship games and lost, and Kyle got to 3 championship games and lost. So they're really neck and neck. But look at their records.
Yeah.
Can you tell us their records?
Okay, let me tell you their records. So Harbaugh was 44-19-1 in 4 years, 695 winning percentage. Kyle Shanahan is 52-46. Now
what's
people say,
wait, what's the percentage?
It is 531. Now people give Kyle kind of excuses. Well, he took over a bad team. So did Jim Harbaugh. That team wasn't winning anything without him. Oh, well, Jim Harbaugh's team had talent and this team didn't. Well, this team had DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward. It had talent. And I think what happened was Kyle botched the first 2 years of the rebuild. I mean, he was terrible the first 2 years. It took him 3 years to figure out what he was doing as a head coach. Sean McVay down in LA took over a team that was coming off like 11 straight losing seasons and won immediately. So some coaches can turn things around immediately. Kyle took a few years, but eventually he did. But look, I think the main thing that separates them is the quarterback position. Harbaugh got it. He nurtured it. He protected it. Kyle doesn't do any of those things.
And Harbaugh was a quarterback. He understood it. This dude doesn't understand it. So I want to be real clear. And if people say they're haters, really, Kyle should be number one. Kiss my butt. What we're saying is, he's a respectable number 4.
I mean, let's not even talk about Kyle yet. Let's talk about Harbaugh. Harbaugh was here for 4 years. He lost 19 games. He didn't just resurrect Alex Smith's career. He gave Alex Smith his career. His career was in the gutter, and Jim Harbaugh rescued him. Then he created Colin Kaepernick, 2 quarterbacks. Neither one was great, but both of them became good under Jim Harbaugh. He had the best offensive line in the league. He had a great coaching staff. He had the best defensive coordinator in the league. He was really good. He was really good. Maybe he was a little abrasive. Maybe he wouldn't have worked long-term here, but he's still doing really well at Michigan. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he has the kind of personality that after a while he doesn't get along with the people that he works for. I think he's difficult. Maybe Kyle is more diplomatic, but we're not talking about politics. We're talking about a coach. And I'm confident to put Harbaugh at 3 and then to put Kyle at 4.
Well, okay, let's talk Kyle. I think it would come down to Kyle Shanahan or Steve Mariucci at 4. Steve Mariucci with the 49ers was 57-39. Now, he did take over a much better team. It's 57-39. He went to the playoffs. He didn't win that many. He won 3 playoff games. He was 3-2 in the playoffs. Kyle Shanahan is, I believe, 4-2.
And
no,
Mariucci,
I'm wrong. He's 1-2. He was 1-2 in the playoffs. Sorry about that. 1-2.
Mariucci never got to the championship game, right?
No.
So, I put him at behind Kyle at number 5, but a respectable 5, and not that much behind Kyle.
No. I'm sorry. I want to get this right. He's 3-4 in the playoffs. Steve Mariucci. He's behind Kyle. But one thing that Steve Mariucci did, he didn't find Jeff Garcia. Bill Walsh found him. But once he had Jeff Garcia, he kept him healthy, and they won. I mean, again, he had the quarterback. He had a stable quarterback position. He didn't have a room. He didn't have a competition. He didn't have a 2-quarterback system. He had 1 quarterback. He was tied to him. He kept him healthy, like a real coach.
You mean he didn't have a great quarterback room?
No, he had Steve Young. Steve Young got hurt. Then he had Jeff Garcia. He wasn't messing around with 3 quarterbacks at once and flipping a coin and making them, do a dance to see who's going to be the best quarterback.
Yeah. When Bill got Garcia, I heard Mariucci say to someone, he's just a guy. And
I think he'd admit that too. I think he said on the record, like, I didn't see it. God love Bill, because I didn't see it at all. I was going to cut him.
Yeah. He said, I heard
he was going to cut him.
He's just a guy. And that tells you, and Mariucci was a quarterback coach. He was Brett Favre's quarterback coach. And he didn't see a quarterback, and Bill did. Bill had played against him. He had played at San Jose, Garcia.
Right. So it's one thing to be able to coach a quarterback, which I think Mariucci did pretty well. It's another thing to be able to identify one.
Right.
Not many people can do that. Bill was one.
And Kyle can't.
Oh, Kyle cannot. So Kyle's 4. Mariucci is 5. And after that, I don't know how many good coaches we got left. Should we go through the rest?
Well, let's try to make an order. Let's call those the top 5, all right?
Top 5,
and
yes.
Now we're going to a lower echelon. So let me ask you this. Mike Nolan, what was his record?
Okay, let me get Mike Nolan. He was 18-37. Not good.
Not good.
Not good.
Okay.
But, I mean, none of these guys that we're going to be talking about right now have good numbers.
Okay, what was Singletary?
Singletary was Uh, 18 and 22, surprisingly.
Okay, I'm putting Singletary at number 6.
Okay, fair enough.
Now, let
There
me
was
tell you.
something inauthentic about. I don't want to talk too. There was something about Singletary that I think conveyed the message better than whatever Nolan was trying to convey. And Singletary was on Nolan's staff, if you remember. Nolan got fired. Singletary replaced him.
That's right.
Yeah.
On the last day of the season, because Jed
Jed.
was in one of his hurries.
Yeah.
He's in one of his hurries, and he
Yeah.
couldn't. Like
He was
do a
27.
search.
He wanted to show
he was in
that
a
he
hurry.
knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, he knew. As we'd say in Brooklyn, he knew. He was a knower.
So Singletary was a joke when he was a coach, but really 18 and 22, that would put him ahead of all the rest of the coaches on this
Yeah,
list.
I put him at number 6. I have things
Yeah.
to say about Singletary.
Yeah.
First of all, I really like him.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good guy, and
Yeah.
he is a Hall of Famer, great player, and there's a real presence around Singletary. He has a deep voice like James Earl Jones,
Mhm.
and he has a lusty laugh. He's very intelligent. He just
One of the
wasn't a
greatest
good
football
coach.
players of all time also. I mean, he is a legend. A
And
legend.
so I think his limitation as a coach was this. I don't think he was particularly interested in details,
X's
what
and O's.
people call X's and O's. I
Right.
don't think he was very good at it. What he was good at was projecting his personality the way Harbaugh could
Right.
and rousing a team.
Right.
But he couldn't back it up. Harbaugh
Right.
could back it up.
Right.
This one couldn't back it up. So what happened with the players, he would give them all these speeches, and after a while they tuned out. They
Sure.
thought, he's just hot air. And in fact, his record wasn't that bad, but he did talk better than he coached.
If I remember correctly, he may have saved Vernon Davis's career. Vernon Davis came in the league a little troubled, got thrown out of games, would get upset if he wasn't getting targeted, a little bit like Terrell Owens, but not as good. And Mike Singletary turned him into a team player, if I remember
Absolutely,
correctly.
yes.
Yeah.
Because he had that kind of gravitas.
Absolutely. If Mike Singletary's disappointed in you, it means something. Like he has the kind of gravitas that John Lynch has. Except,
Yes.
I mean, he got into the Hall of Fame a lot quicker. So
Better
salute Mike
player
Singletary.
Better
Yes.
player. I'll tell you a funny story about Singletary. I used to talk to him. He was really a guy I liked a lot. And
Mhm.
he was very religious. So he used to wear I don't know if he used to wear a cross.
A big
It
one.
was really big. It was really
I remember
big.
that.
So it was so funny. So we were chatting one time and I said, I got to say, Mike, why do you wear such a big cross? And he said, you think this is big? I got bigger ones at home.
He was cool. He was cool.
Really,
He was the kind. I was in college when you were covering him, and I remember you would challenge him, and he wouldn't really know what to do with you. But then after the press conference, he would come over to you and say, "That was good. Thank you. You made me better." Like he really was a competitor. A true competitor doesn't get upset when someone goes head to head with them. They appreciate it and said, "Actually, that just made me better. Thank you." As opposed to someone saying, "Who dare you talk to me?"
As
like
opposed
that?
to Mark Jackson.
Right? Who do you think you are?
Yeah. As
I'm the
opposed to Mark.
coach. Yeah.
Let's just
Gotta love
say
Mike.
one thing about Mark Jackson, because last night Denver won the whole thing, right? Who's their coach?
Mike Malone, the underling.
Oh boy.
The underling.
Okay.
The underling.
We're going to come back to the Niners in a minute, but Iggy was there. It was draft night, whatever. And Mark Jackson was the coach. And I had written something nice about Mike Malone.
Yeah. Because he famously drew up the plays in the huddle while Mark Jackson stood and watched. Famous. Remember that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So he came over and in front of Iggy, he said that he was
pissed.
You
killed me, man. You killed me, man. You killed me.
Is that what he said? You killed me,
You killed me, man. You're like, what are you talking about? He's like, man, you gave my underling all the credit.
Yeah, he called
You gave
him
my underling all the credit. It's like, well, he just won a championship. Man.
And you
all
can't
right,
get it. Okay.
Yeah, no one wants you. Okay.
Yeah.
For good reason. Can you imagine the stories? Hey, Joe Lake, we're thinking about hiring Mark Jackson. Anything we need to know off the record about Mark? Ha! How much time you got? Okay. So we did Singletary is 6. Who's 7?
Okay. I'm going to say something weird. What about the Butcher?
No.
Okay.
No,
Who do we got
I
left?
think you gotta put Tom. I think you gotta put Nolan here, and
Okay.
I'm even attempting to put Nolan ahead of Singletary because that was Nolan's staff. He hired Singletary, he hired Tom Sula, he brought all these guys in, and he took over a team that had the number one pick in the draft and was starting over. So I think Mike Nolan was. I mean, he wore the suit. He was a little. I mean, he had no success here, and he did throw Alex Smith under the bus when he got hurt. But he did put he hired Tom Sula and Singletary. He deserves some credit.
Okay.
Doesn't he?
And also, he's a serious. After that, he was a serious defensive
Coordinator.
coordinator in the league.
Before and after. Yes.
Before and after. He's
Yes.
a really, really good coach. So
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
I
Nolan.
stand corrected. Nolan at number 7.
7. And
Right?
then the butcher. Then the butcher. Yeah.
Okay.
I would
What
say
is
that.
the butcher's? What was his record?
It wasn't that bad. It was 6-11. He was a interim coach for one game and won it. So 6-11.
Okay.
Lost it. Sorry.
We're talking about Jim Tom Sula,
Yeah.
which I call the butcher, and because he looks like a butcher.
Yeah.
Did he do anything good as a head coach?
He won his interim coaching game, and then he won his first game. I think he won some games at home. I think that his team was pretty tough at home, but when they went on the road, they didn't compete, and we saw it. The first road game in Pittsburgh, they gave up 40-something points.
Iggy,
It wasn't competitive.
Iggy, wasn't he the coach when they went to Cleveland? We went and he lost to Johnny Manziel.
That's true. He lost to Johnny Manziel.
And I got to tell you what happened before the game. The great center for the Niners, Randy Cross.
Yeah.
I was learning how to text at that time. Remember Iggy and Iggy and I are in the press box at Cleveland, and every once in a while, Randy and I know each other. He lives in Atlanta, and he said, "Lowell, the Niners are going to lose this game."
Yeah.
And I thought, "Boy, you're crazy, Randy. What the hell do you know about football?" The Niners lost to Johnny Manziel, and a day or two later, I just texted and I said, "Look, I thought you were wrong when you sent me that text, but you were right, Randy. Why did you reach those conclusions before the game?" He said, "On the road with that coaching staff, I didn't see how they could win." Iggy, that's a true story, right?
That's what happened. That team did not travel at all. But they did play kind of hard at home, and I think they were like 500 at home. Who cares? Tom Sula, number 8 with the bullet. Who's number? Okay, so now we have to figure out who was worse, Dennis Erickson or Chip Kelly.
I'd have to go with Chip. Iggy, it's a tough one, but I'd have to go with Chip Kelly as the worst.
As the worst? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's compare. Chip Kelly was famously 2-14. I believe he lost like 11, 13 something games in a row. And then we got Dennis Erickson with he coached for the Seattle Seahawks and was okay in the late 90s. Came to the Niners, 7-9 his first season. Okay. Then 2-14. He had a Chip Kelly. I think you'd have to put Chip Kelly below him.
Yeah.
Dennis Erickson was the coach at Miami in the late 80s, early 90s, and won 2 national championships. Chip Kelly's been a coach in college for a long time, won 0 national championships. I'm giving it to Erickson, and then Chip Kelly is the worst coach the Niners have had since 1979.
I have to agree with you. I'm going to add one thing. You talk about presence with the media. Erickson was a veteran. He was a wily old fox.
Right.
When he first came in, this was before all the bullshit when you couldn't really sit in a coach's office, or if you did, the PR guy had to be there. Erickson knew who I was. Come on up, Lowell. We sat for an hour. We talked. We talked on the record. We talked off the record. He was a real grown-up.
An old school coach.
Old school coach. And you couldn't get near Chip Kelly. It's like the guy was from the Wizard of Oz. He was behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Iggy, you didn't know what did you ever have a conversation with that guy?
No. And with people like that, you always wonder, like, why are you so closed off? What do you have to hide? How come Dennis Erickson is just dying to talk football and can't stop? Because 9 out of 10 coaches who are real coaches are dying to talk football and can't stop. If you're listening, you know what I mean? So why don't you want to do that? Especially anyway. So Chip Kelly.
I have to say, I liked Erickson. I don't consider that he was a good coach for the Niners, but I liked him. With Chip, I felt he sucked as a coach, and he was a loser as a communicator. Get out of here.
I felt like he was tanking the season and he thought that they would fire Trent Baalke instead of him and that he would get more power, and he miscalculated. I heard a story,
Whoa.
can't confirm it, but I'd like to tell it. From what I heard after games on the road, they fly home and the coaches watch the film of the game immediately on the flight home. From what I heard, Chip Kelly would watch Spider-Man or other movies.
Okay, but it's a rumor.
I don't know that for sure. Don't know that for sure. It's a rumor, but wow.
Let me ask you a question, sweetie, because you know this, sweetie. I just called him sweetie.
Sweetie.
If you're a head coach and instead of watching the game film on the plane, you watch Spider-Man, can Spider-Man help you be a better coach? Is there anything in Spider-Man?
Well, he has superpowers. I don't think, I don't think so, unless you can somehow get the technology into your quarterback so that he's more explosive. I don't think it helps.
Okay.
It's plot structure, character development, special effects. I don't think any costume design. Maybe costume design could help your team. I don't know.
Okay. So maybe
Sorry,
he just
Chip.
had a weakness for Spider-Man.
And what's really unfair about this is I'm not a fan, but I kind of like the rah-rah UCLA stuff because I went there, so I have a little bit of an interest in their teams. And, of course, Chip Kelly has to coach their football team. So I'm now rooting for him to do well, I guess, although I don't care. In fact, I'd like him to get fired so I could root for someone else. Okay, let's get this one super chat. Ezio Sanchez says, "What's up, Grant? Did you look into the Peter principle? If so, do you and your dad think it applies to Kyle Shanahan with this roster? Harbaugh would have won already." Hold on. What is the Peter principle? The Peter principle. Person who is competent at their job will earn a promotion to a position that requires different skills. Yes. So you're good at a job, you get promoted. You're good at that job, you get promoted. Eventually, you get promoted to a job you're not good at, and then you stay there.
Yeah.
And that's maybe where Kyle's at.
It's possible. Iggy, do you think with this team, Harbaugh would have won a Super Bowl?
He didn't win a Super Bowl with his team. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say no. If they
know.
gave him this quarterback room,
I don't think
I don't think he'd say, I don't want it. I want a quarterback. I don't want a room.
I don't want a room. I don't know what Kyle's. I don't want this offensive line. And I don't want this quarterback room.
Yeah.
Only one he might want is I don't know. I mean, maybe he'd want Brock and Trey and say I coach them both better than Kyle, or maybe he'd say this is ridiculous.